American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tellustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is May 2nd, 2021. My name is Nick Knudsen. My co-host is Robert Parker. We're joined by Jeremy Kohlman of the Extra Point to go over all the draft grades. On this episode, we will be focusing on the AFC South, or as I like to call it, the best division in pro football. But maybe that's my Jaguars fandom speaking. Trevor Lawrence plays in the AFC South, guys. That's pretty good, right? I think that's pretty good now. But we're going to start with the most fun team in the AFC South right now, the Houston Texans. And the Texans, boy, oh boy, the Texans had a weekend, just like they've had an off season here. They surprise everyone and take Davis Mills out of Stanford with their first pick in the third round. Good prospect. A lot of people thought he could climb into the second potentially. I think it says a lot about the state of Deshaun Watson in Houston in terms of them not expecting him to be back this year or at all by leading off your draft in a draft where you really need help everywhere, that you say, we're going to take a quarterback even though you have Tyrod Taylor in town. Nico Collins, I believe they traded up for this pick to take Nico Collins out of Michigan, big body receiver. Brevin Jordan out of Miami, solid pick up there at tight end. Garrett Wallow, a linebacker from TCU, and Roy Lopez out of Arizona. Guys, the only thing keeping me from giving this entire draft grade an F is I love Brevin Jordan. I think that he has the potential to be a good, solid receiving tight end for any team that took him. But I just don't understand the plan in Houston. I don't understand. I think this year, it's the writing's on the wall that it's not going to be a good year. Take the quarterback next year. Take him next year when you actually get the pick to take him. I don't understand the plan to take Davis Mills here. I'm giving the Texans a D- draft grade, and they're saved from the F from Brevin Jordan only.
Yeah, I mean, you just knew going into this draft that it wasn't going to fill everything they needed to fill. You know, you just knew that this was going to be like an incomplete draft, no matter how you came out of it. Mm-hmm. Then going with a quarterback third, I like Davis Mills as a prospect, I do, but it's like you said, you're going to have a chance at a top pick next year, like the top quarterback next year. That's what you're looking at most likely. And it's like, you have Tyrod Taylor there. You have Ryan Finley there. I just don't see the point. It's like you could have got an impact defender, playmaker elsewhere. Just, man, I don't understand that pick at all. I really don't understand trading up for Nico Collins. I mean, in a draft where you already don't have a lot of draft capital, trading up for a receiver of all things when this is a really deep receiving class.
For a guy you don't have to trade up to, you probably didn't have to trade up for.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because there are so many receivers that don't fit certain schemes in the NFL, you know, like Kyle Shanahan's scheme out in San Fran. He wants guys who can run after the catch. Collins doesn't fit that at all. You know, it's like, just another head scratcher there for a receiver who I don't think is even that good. I had a lot of guys I would have taken over him. Shoot, I would have taken Tamorrion Terry over Nico Collins, and he went undrafted. Brevin
Not
Jordan.
a lot of guys with his size though. His size really stood out in this class.
It did. You did not see a ton of 6'4" receivers in this class. Don't get me wrong. The size thing is nice because, well, like you said, what the heck is the plan down in Houston right now?
Right.
But let's move on to Brevin Jordan. He's an athletic move tight end. He doesn't give you a lot in the run game, but he can be a mismatch in the passing game on linebackers. That was a good pick. I actually love the pick of Garrett Wallow. He was a safety at TCU that bulked up to be a linebacker. He's got great speed, honestly, at linebacker. He's still developing his instincts for that position, but he's got all the tools to actually be a really nice player for them. I think that was a great pick in round 5. And then as far as Roy Lopez goes, like, he's a decent player. I mean, I understand they needed defensive tackle depth. There would have been other players I would have taken over him. D-. It's just like you can't put it any nicer than that when it comes to what the Houston Texans are and did this offseason, including the draft.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Just like you, Nick, I would, if it wasn't for Brevin Jordan and Garrett Wallow, this draft class would probably be an F for me. But I'm going to go ahead and just give it a D. I really think they gave up too much draft capital to get Lermy Tunsil. They gave up a first and a second to get Lermy Tunsil. Even though he was a Pro Bowl caliber player, I think he's going to be a consistent Pro Bowl caliber player moving forward in his career. But at the end of the day, just like you guys said, you drafted up to get Nico Collins. You needed all those picks to kind of fill out this roster, because if Deshaun Watson doesn't play this year, I don't think Deshaun Watson plays this year. And if somehow Deshaun Watson never, ever takes another snap, with the Houston Texans or with any team for that matter, you have to build out your roster. And this was a perfect time for them to do that. But they gave up picks to draft up, to move up and draft Nico Collins, which, just like you said, Jeremy, I mean, if I have to choose between Tamron Terry and Nico Collins, I'm choosing Tamron Terry, who actually went undrafted, who is a 6'4" guy, 6'3" guy around the same similar size, who can take the top off of defense. I know he has a lot of, issues with the concentration drops, and his medicals wasn't that really good, but I just didn't like this draft. I know Davis Mills might be, the stud of this draft from the quarterback position. If you just listening to the football community, he has all the tools that you need to be a quarterback. He can make all the necessary throws, but one thing that he struggles with is injury. So that's something that you really don't want to have at the quarterback position. But, drafting him in the 3rd round, I mean, if you like him that much, then, it's a great value pick, because some people thought that he could actually go in the 1st round. So I'm not too concerned with that particular pick with Davis Mills. And at the end of the day, we know the quarterback draft class coming out next year won't be that good. Outside of Sam Howell and Kadon Slavis, I really just don't see too much in that quarterback draft class next year. So if you think Davis Mills is that guy moving forward, go ahead and get him in the 3rd round. So I was okay with that. But I think the highlight gem of this draft class for the Houston Texans is Brevin Jordan. I think, he could be that tight end like a Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle, maybe not blocking in line like those guys, but definitely from the pass catch and receiving standpoint. So I'm going to give the Houston Texans a D, but, maybe it can shape out to be a little bit higher if Deshaun Watson come back, depending on what the state of that is.
Trade him. I think that's what Davis Mills being picked first sends the message. I think they're moving on from Watson. That's what I'm hearing. If you're in the state you're in Houston right now, and you spend your first pick on a quarterback, that is the message you are sending loud and clear, in my opinion. Let's move on to Indianapolis. Much better situation on this roster here. Edge rusher Kwity Paye out of Michigan. They went edge again with Dayo Odingbo out of Vandy. One of my favorite names in the draft, because I could just see the NFLP, the PA guy in the Colts Stadium every time he makes a tackle doing the Dayo. You're going to get that every single time the guy makes a tackle. Kylan Granson, the tight end SMU, goes in the 4th round. Solid athletic pickup there. Sean Davis from Florida. Hey, Rob and I watched a lot of Sean Davis down at UF. The guy can fly. He's not afraid to hit. He's going to be a special teams demon. He is not afraid of to bite on play action either. But if he develops that, he can become a real solid player on the defense. But at least you'll get some special teams contribution right away from that guy. Sam Ehlinger out of Texas. You already got Easton there, but the kind of chatter I heard was Wentz does not last a full season. Typically, you're going to have to go to your backup at some point, likely in the next couple of years with Wentz. And if Ehlinger could be there to provide some depth, that's not a bad pickup there. Michael Stranchin was a D2 prospect, I believe, out of Charleston, West Virginia. But he did play at Iowa State, I believe, before he ended up there. So definitely some good talent, late round pickup, good risk on him there. And Will Freeze from Penn State, another solid risk there. Overall, I think the top of the class here, you kind of filling in for depth for the most part. If you're the Colts, not a ton of like glaring needs here, but I love the first 3 picks. So I'm going to give this class a solid B for Indy.
I have to disagree. I think it's a little lower. I'm going to give it a straight C. I liked the selection of Kwity Paye. Chose him over a potential long-time left tackle in Christian Darrisaw. I think that decision could come back to really haunt them this year. We'll see. And it's not because I don't like Paye. It's just because Indianapolis needed a left tackle and did virtually nothing to address it in the draft. They have to sign someone here in free agency that's going to come in and play left tackle. Because I'm not of the opinion that you move your all-pro left guard Knudsen to left tackle. I don't care if it's for a season. There's a reason why he's an all-pro every single year he's been in the league at the position he's at. Dayan Odangbo, he's not going to play defensive end. He's going to be a defensive tackle in Indianapolis' scheme. He's 6'4", 285. They brought him in as a guy who could potentially develop as like a really special inside interior pass rusher to try to replace Danico Autry, who left in the offseason. Because when I initially saw the pick, I was thinking, why do we double down? Or why did the Colts double down a defensive end? And then it's like, oh, you actually look at his size and what he brings, and it's like he's going to be more of an interior player. So I hate the Kyle Granson pick. I know that's where I'm going to differ with you two on this one. I don't understand the value in adding a third tight end to your roster when you can easily go out and sign a guy like Trey Burton, who's still on the free market. You've got Doyle in front of him. He doesn't block at all, which is the real perplexer for me, because Indianapolis is this run-centric team, and it's like I don't understand taking a 6'2" tight end who cannot run block. That just blows my mind that you spend a top, 130 pick on a guy like that, because I don't think he's special enough just to be a slot wide receiver either. I don't think he separates that great. I love the Sean Davis pick. I know you two Gator boys are going to love that. Like you said, he can fly all over the field. Honestly, he's a perfect backup to Kari Willis, what they drafted last year. They are both very similar molds, fly around, great tacklers. He's going to fit really well in this aggressive Colts scheme. Sam Ehlinger, it's just another pick that makes no sense to me because you have Eason behind him. Chad Kelly's still on the roster. Just why are you adding a fourth camp arm at this point? I know Wentz typically doesn't last the whole season, but if he's not going to last the whole season, I'm not wasting a guy.
Do you think it says they don't like Eason though?
No, I think they're Eason's only a second-year player. It's hard to have an opinion on a guy who's only been there for 1 year. I mean, I don't know what they see behind closed doors and everything, and how it practices and whatnot, but it's like, where's the value on a day 3 quarterback who's going to come in and might be your third string quarterback? Get me a guy who's going to be able to do something this year, or a guy who I can actually sit and really develop, because the plan is Carson Wentz is the future, so I just don't get that pick. I don't get drafting clipboard holders, even if it is on day 3. I'm going to take that wide receiver that's in a really deep draft class who could potentially make the field. I like the Mike Strahan pick. He surprises people with how fast he is and kind of his body type. He reminds me a lot of Cooper Kupp, actually, like a bigger version of Cooper Kupp. He could come in and be a really sneaky inside slot receiver. Will Fries is a solid pick. I don't think he's going to stay at tackle, though. I think he's more of a guard in the NFL. So, again, just glaring need is left tackle, doesn't get addressed. And then I don't understand the Granson pick. I don't understand the Ellinger pick. That's why this is a straight C for me, because I do like some of the players here. I just feel like there was some needs missed and then just some head scratching picks just that are going to, I know you said they're depth fillers, but it's just like that's expensive draft capital just to be a depth filler.
Fair criticism. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Jeremy. I actually give, the Indianapolis Colts a C- in regards to this, particular draft. Just like you said, they had a glaring need at the left tackle position to kind of, fill in that role that Anthony Costanzo left. But, they doubled down with the defensive end, in the first 2 picks. I love the Kwity Paye pick. I think, he can kind of, at his ceiling, he kind of conform into, maybe that Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis type of defensive end, pass rusher on the edge. And we know when the Indianapolis Colts were at their best, they had one of those guys. So I love that pick. And maybe, Dayo and Dingbo can kind of, be the other bookend to kind of go with that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a redshirt year for him because he had the torn Achilles this offseason. So, you pick a guy in the second round who actually is going to be a redshirt guy, which you could have addressed the offensive tackle spot that you needed so well. So, and I'm different for you, Jeremy. I know you say you don't like the Colin Granson pick at the tight end position, but I think, this day and age, all the schemes is going to those pass catching tight ends, those mismatches. And I think Colin Granson can be one of those mismatch guys. Maybe you don't bring him in line to block that much, but you kind of put him on the field in the third down scenarios to kind of, free up some other guys, even if he's a decoy. So I love that pick.
Does Carson Wentz like his tight ends?
Carson Wentz love his tight ends, and maybe he can kind of bloom into being that Zach Ertz guy. I don't want to compare him to Zach Ertz because Zach Ertz is next level at the tight end position, but just taking the pressure off Carson Wentz so he doesn't have to hold on to the ball and just sit back there and throw the ball deep. But I think they really could have went offensive line here. They had multiple opportunities to address the offensive line and they didn't. So I give this a C-. I love the Sean Davis pick, not so much for, actually getting on the field in the safety role, but just like Nick said, from a special team standpoint, he's going to put his head in there. He's one of those guys that'll stick his head in a wasp's nest. Like he's not afraid to hit. He's going to hit you. I don't care how big you are. He's going to hit you. But a lot of those things he has to clean up because he doesn't form tackle as much, but he really throws his body in there. So if he can kind of clean that up, maybe he can kind of get on the field a little consistent and kind of, pick up his coverage skills. Just like Nick said, he bites on that play action a lot. We've seen that countless of times, but we've seen him make exceptional plays on the back end, especially that one-handed interception he had. So he has the ability to stick around in the league, but I think he'll stick around on special teams more than actually getting on the field in that safety role. And Sam Ehlinger, I actually had Sam Ehlinger going undrafted. I kind of compared him to that Tim Tebow-ish player where, he doesn't have the arm talent that he can make all the throws, but he's just a tough, competitive guy. He'll tuck and run. And just like you guys said, Jacob Eason is on that roster. And, it really wasn't we really didn't get to see him perform last year because of Phillip Rivers was there. So I really didn't like the Sam Ehlinger pick because once again, you could still address the offensive line position and you didn't do it. So I give this a C- in my book. So the Indianapolis Colts missed on a lot of potential picks that they could have had to actually come in and impact the team right away, especially from the offensive line position.
You go out, you get Phil Rivers. Like, wow, you got Eason, you go out and get Phil Rivers, then you go out and get Wentz, and then you draft another quarterback. I'm not sure the Colts love Eason. That's just from the outside. That's what it looks like. But do you think Ehlinger, guys, a quick answer on this here. Do you think he's getting an opportunity? Do you think they maybe see some Taysom Hill potential where they can stick him in on certain situations? Do you think Hill is creating an opportunity for these type of like kind of slash type players like in the league, or do you think he's kind of a one-off example?
No, I think, Taysom Hill is a very good comparison to Sam Ellinger. I think Taysom Hill is way more athletic than Sam Ellinger. But I tell you what, with the injury concerns that Carson Wentz has had, if you kind of want to bring him in, like, on a goal line package where you want your quarterback to kind of run the ball
Right.
and kind of spread it out, I think that's a great pick because Jacob Eason doesn't provide that, from a runner standpoint at the quarterback position. So if you're going there, that's okay. But once again, I think you could have went there as an undrafted quarterback if
Sure.
that was the case for the Colts. So I think it was just a little too high for Sam Ellinger, in my opinion, especially when you had needs that you needed to address on the offensive line. Or maybe you get another linebacker to kind of pair up with Darius Leonard. So I just didn't like this draft from the Colts. So that's why they get a C- for me.
What do you think about that question, Jeremy?
Well, I think it's ironic first that you asked that question where they got this pick was from the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if you planned on that or not.
No, I did not. That's pretty good.
But I just, again, even if it is that, are you really drafting like a special teams ace slash,
that high
ability player at this point? I mean, they're like Robert said, left tackle, unaddressed, linebacker, unaddressed.
Okay.
I mean, what are we doing here?
It's a fair criticism. I just want to bring up that point because I feel like someone's going to try to copy that Taysom Hill model to an extent. Maybe not fall in love with Taysom Hill quite the way Sean Payton has, but like, that 3 to 5 play type of guy. Like, I mean, let's move on to Jacksonville. You're hearing whispers of Tim Tebow getting a try at tight end. I don't think Tebow's going to go out and catch 46 balls at tight end, but I think they'll call him a tight end and he'll line up all over the field if they were to do something with that and maybe be that type of slash player. So it'll be interesting to see if Ellinger gets used in any type of capacity like that for them to spend such a high draft pick on a guy that we all think probably could have gone undrafted or at least was a 7th round flyer in a lot of instances. But let's move on to Jacksonville, guys. The franchise savior has arrived. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is in town. The Jaguars are never not making the playoffs again as long as he's around. Things are good in the AFC South. They've become the most dominant team in the AFC South on the spot. I'm not afraid to say any of it. He's absolute franchise changer. From day one. I already said, I was joking around the other day, but I'm kind of not. If you think of the history of Jaguars football, you got Fred Taylor, Mark Brunell, Tony Baselli, Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is that next most famous player already from day one as a draft pick. Kind of sad, but also that level of excitement. You got ETN as that second pick in the first round. Little bit of a stretch there, but it's hard to find those high-quality running backs like that, so understood it. Like, good pair with James Robinson. Tyson Campbell out of Georgia at corner at the top of the second. Walker Little out of Stanford. Guy who missed some time, multiple injuries, similar to what we talked about in Philly, like with our boy Dickerson going there in Philly. Super talented. No one questions the talent. It's just the ability to stay healthy. Andre Sisco, All-American, another guy, injury, but nobody questions the talent. All-American safety out of Syracuse at safety there. Guy who opted out in 2020, Jay Tuafeli out of USC. People had a second-round grade on them, they were saying, on the draft there. Jordan Smith, a 6'7" edge rusher, former Florida Gator at UAB. Heard he's like, it's basically can he keep it together type of thing. The talent's really unquestioned. It's just a off the field thing with him. Luke Farrell, the tight end out of Ohio State, was really hoping to see a guy like Brevin Jordan. They're still missing that element. I don't think Farrell fills in for that. Meyer felt like they needed another tight end. It's a guy he's comfortable with. Had a solid career at Ohio State. I don't know if he was worthy of a 5th round draft pick. Bit of a reach there. Jalen Camp out of Georgia Tech. I think he's a very solid player. Highlight for that pick there, but the highlight of that pick for me was Meyer opening the call to hell with Georgia, because his daughter went to Georgia Tech, but Meyer, former Florida Gator coach, knows a thing or two about saying to hell with Georgia. So top to bottom, guys, obviously Trevor Lawrence, fantastic. I like the ETN pick. But I think those next three, really the next 5 picks, really the rest of the draft, you can argue, guys with high-end potential. These were top-level recruits coming out of high school, but Campbell struggled to develop in certain areas. Walker Little struggled to stay healthy. Injury history with Cisco, guy who opted out to a Philly who wasn't like a high-end, he wasn't that top-end guy. Smith has issues off the field. Farrell, on that pick. Camp, I want to love this draft. I want to love this draft. Camp's a good pick in the 6th round. I really like all the picks. And if these guys develop, like if Little could come in and take that spot from Cam Robinson at left tackle, it could happen. It could happen there. Campbell could be an immediate contributor. Cisco could be an immediate contributor. I mean, I really see this draft class as having a lot of potential. But you really, that Trevor Lawrence piece is what really boosts the grade up for me overall as a guarantee. And I think ETN's going to be a real solid back too. So it keeps me, the fact that it's highly based on potential and not necessarily that proven performance, it knocks it out of the A range for me. But I really like what they did. I like the thinking on the picks. I'm giving it a B+.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nick. I'm gonna give it an actual A- because Trevor Lawrence is probably one of the best quarterback prospects that we've seen since Andrew Luck. And if he turns out to be Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning-ish, just that alone can set this Jacksonville Jaguars franchise moving forward for the next 10 to 15 years. So if Trevor Lawrence pans out, this is an A- for me, regardless of what the other prospects that the Jacksonville Jaguars picked up in this draft. But I tell you what, Urban Meyer likes his 5-star recruits, not only on the collegiate level, but he likes them on the NFL level. If you just go up and down this list, Trevor Lawrence, 5-star, Travis Etienne, 5-star, Tyson Campbell, 5-star, Walker Little, 5-star, and then you kind of see the dip a little bit. But just like you said, if these guys can stay healthy, like, oh my God, this Jacksonville Jaguars team can actually be one of the premier teams in the AFC South. But I tell you what, Tyson Campbell being paired up with CJ Henderson on the other side at the cornerback position, those guys are track stars. So I can tell you
what. You got Shaq Griffin from Seattle too.
Yep. So I can tell you what Urban Meyer wants to do. He wants to put speed on the field, not only on the offense side of the ball, but he wants to put speed on the defense side of the ball. But Andre Cisco, I think, the Jacksonville Jaguars, it was a lot of good safeties out there. With his injury history, I think they could have went a different route. But at the end of the day, if he can stay healthy, compare him with, CJ Henderson and Tyson Campbell on the edges, I think they're having a good shot of making a run and being a consistent playoff contender moving forward. Luke Farrell, me and Jeremy always talk about, the tight ends that don't block. This is the one tight end who actually can block. You can put him in that H-back role. Mm-hmm. So Urban Meyer wants to have that tight end, that familiarity with Luke Farrell with the Ohio State ties. And if Travis Etienne can do anything what he's done in Clemson with Trevor Lawrence in the backfield, with James Robinson, that lightning and thunder type of mode in the backfield, and not only talk about the playmakers that Trevor Lawrence have on the offense, on the outside with DJ Chark and Marvin Wilson with LaVisca Chenault that they drafted. So I think this team can be really, really good moving forward. But I'm gonna give it an A-, but it has potential to blossom into an A+, depending if Tyson Campbell, Walker Little, and Andre Cisco can remain healthy and reach their ceiling.
Potential is the key word. And the one thing you like about Cisco is, unlike the criticism with Henderson and Campbell, Jeremy, who they both have their interception numbers aren't necessarily great, Cisco's a ball hawk.
Yeah, honestly, Andre Cisco, even before the college football season started, I had him originally as my second highest safety on the board, just behind Trevor Mooring, just because of everything he can bring to the field. But I'm going to start up top, obviously, where quarterback is king. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, potential game changer, for that franchise, obviously. I mean, he's the real deal. He's a winner. He's going to come in. I think he's going to turn this team around to a degree. Didn't love the Travis Etienne pick, but I can understand it. I mean, you knew with Urban Meyer coming in there that James Robinson was probably not going to be the best scheme fit for the type of offense he wants to run. I think it was a little early for a running back. I feel like you could have got it impact positions elsewhere. Hard to argue, though, because Travis Etienne is a good back, will really fit his system because he really wants someone with home run speed. Etienne has home run speed from anywhere on the field. So I get it. When one pick behind Najee Harris, to Pittsburgh. If you had a preference at running back, you wanted to get one early this year. So I understand the pick, which is why, I'm pretty high on that selection. Like the Tyson Campbell pick. I mean, like the interception numbers aren't there, but the pass deflection numbers are there. If that, interceptions are something he can work on. He's in a good position the majority of the time. And that's what I want the most from my corners. I just don't get beat. That's a big thing for me. He didn't get beat a ton because like Robert said, a little bit of a track star. Walker Little, I know he has some injury histories, but I mean, he opted out this year.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't because of injury or anything. He just said, screw a 6-game schedule. Why am I going to work my butt off for a 6-game schedule in a year where it can only hurt my draft stock? Really, he
got injured the first game of 2019 and he just chose to spend 2020 rehabbing and working out instead of messing with that.
Right. Yeah. Has one game of 2019 tape, which was pretty good too for like a redshirt sophomore or whatever he was at the time. He's a 5-star recruit. The talent is there. And he doesn't have to come in and like start right away. They've got Cam Robinson in the left tackle. They've got Rashawn Taylor at Jawan Taylor. Sorry, Jawan Taylor. I knew I said that wrong. At right tackle. It's like he comes into a situation where he's not going to be pressed to start right away. So, I mean, getting a potential left tackle to replace Cam Robinson after I think he signed a 1-year deal. Or
they franchise tagged him this year.
Yeah. So he's just on a 1-year deal. So
but Cam gets hurt a lot though, too. Cam gets hurt a lot, and every time he's been hurt the last few years, it really throws the line off.
Right. So, I mean, a guy like Walker Little, will probably end up playing at some point this year and easily could be the heir apparent. So I really like that in a year where I think there were a lot of left tackles. I think this is a year if you fell in love with one, go ahead and go get him. And I think they ended up doing that because there were guys later that they could have went with. I already said I loved Andre Sisco. He's my second-rated safety before the start of the year. Just love his tape overall. He's a ball hawk. He's not afraid to come play the run. I can see him playing right away, being a captain too. He's he's a team leader. Jay Tufele, another guy who opted out. Really incredible, solid player. No, he's not a star in any one way or the other, but he's really solid. Jordan Smith could end up being a real steal. Again, it's all about things coming together for him. He's just got to combine it all. You said some off the field stuff. I wasn't aware of that. I was just more aware of he's got to refine his technique. He's got to take to coaching. He's got to develop more moves because he's got the talent to be a phenomenal edge player. Luke Farrell, I like at tight end because one, he actually knows how to block. I actually make that a requirement of my tight ends. So with there being so few tight ends who actually line up in line anymore, especially for Urban Meyer to go get a guy he's familiar with. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I know this kid can block. I know he has good hands. He's a sneaky receiver. And then rounding out with Jalen Camp, who had a really nice year for Georgia Tech. Really, honestly, just that's really nice value this late. So I'm going to give it an A-. I feel like they could have added maybe a more dynamic slot receiver, but they've got enough weapons overall for Trevor Lawrence. They're going to want to run the ball too. I don't expect them to just be this crazy pass-happy offense, like they could be. I expect them to be a pretty well-balanced team this year. So that's
Robinson and Etienne, right? With Robinson and Etienne, you got a lot of reasons to feed the ball to your running backs.
Right. Well, and then honestly, Urban Meyer, said something about, Etienne's going to be our third down back. BS. He's coming to play. He is not coming in just to play on third downs. That was such a crap answer, if you ask me. You do not draft a running back in the first round for him to play just on third downs. He's going to be splitting every other series or starting over James Robinson. James Robinson will be the change of pace back, not Travis Etienne. I'm sorry. I don't believe that at all.
All right, let's head north to Nashville. The Tennessee Titans, they opened up round one with corner out of Virginia Tech, Caleb Farley. There was some expectations he might drop out of round one with back surgery that was announced in March. But solid player, great tape. really kind of in the range where he's supposed to go there. Dylan Radunz, the tackle out of North Dakota State, goes in round 2. Round 3, Monty Rice out of Georgia, just beast on that Georgia defense. Great player. He was posting pictures of Instagram of himself at Titans games when he was a kid wearing like Vince Young and Steve McNair jerseys. I thought that I always like seeing those stories. They get Elijah Molden in round 3, a few picks later out of Washington. Love that value. Des Fitzpatrick, who stood out at the Senior Bowl out of Louisville, the receiver in round 4, along with edge rusher Rashad Weaver out of Pittsburgh. Racy McMath out of LSU, the wide receiver, goes in round 6, and Brady Breeze, the safety out of Oregon, also around 6. I gotta tell you guys, I like the top 2 picks. I don't love the top 2 picks. I was so on Farley. I like Farley. I think he's a good player. I see what people see, but like I think he's, of all the top corners, like he's the one that I was kind of iffiest on. Dylan Radunz out of North Dakota State. Iffy on that pick too, but I think you hit an absolute home run for almost the rest of the draft. There's not a single pick I don't like. Maybe McMath at LSU is a so-so pick, but Rice, Molden, Fitzpatrick, Weaver, Breeze, value. And I think they absolutely crushed the middle and end of this draft. And I didn't give the Jaguars an A with Trevor Lawrence there. But so I don't know if I could go quite in the A range with the Titans, but I'm right there at that B+ with Tennessee because I really love this draft from top to bottom, just really solid across the board.
Yeah, I'm of a similar mind, Nick. Getting Caleb Farley, who could end up being the best corner in this draft, is great value where they, kind of just stood back and kind of took him on a flyer there, because it's not that they don't have corners there already. They signed Janoris Jenkins this offseason, drafted Christian Fulton last year out of LSU, so I mean, this is just another guy that could easily come in and play right away. Obviously, everything hinges on his medical, but if his medical is okay, he's a good player. I love Dylan Radunz. He can play any position across that offensive line. He's a technician. He could get a little bigger, a little stronger, to improve his game. But I mean, guys like him are rare. They can come in and play all 5 spots pretty well. I even think he can play left tackle. Not that they need him to, but I think he can come in right away, play right tackle, come in and play back up any of the interior spots, be a utility backup. He'll dress on game days. That's great. Love the Monty Rice pick. Oh, I love this kid. He is just a heat-seeking missile, and I feel like he's got more room to improve. He's not like this coverage linebacker, but he's got the 4.59 speed to be there in coverage and make plays. Elijah Molden is a steal this late. Oh, my God. Talk about the instincts on this kid, and just he's going to be able to come in, play nickel corner right away. There's not going to be a learning curve at all. Man, talk about a phenomenal pick for the Titans. I thought it was a little early for Des Fitzpatrick, but, he's got some upside. He's got good speed, not like amazing speed. I think he ran the 4.4s, high 4.4s. So he's
lost Corey Davis. You lost Corey Davis this offseason in Tennessee.
Right, you did lose Corey Davis. So you do have to do something there. I know they are very high on former Hoosier Nick Westbrook. Actually, that there was an article out that they think he can really develop and be a good player, which is why they kind of waited till day 2 to address it. I think they have some guys in that room already they like. Add Des Fitzpatrick, another solid, outside guy. Rashad Weaver's a guy I absolutely love. He's got great 3-cone numbers for a guy who's like 6'5", 270, I actually think he could bulk up for them and play more 3-4 defensive end rather than 4-3 defensive end. But with Jim Schwartz being hired on there as a defensive consultant this year, I could see them with some more experimental 4-3 looks where there's a guy right there who could be versatile scheme-wise. So, but I love Rashad Weaver. I thought he was really good. Racing McMath, I mean, that's an interesting pick. But, I mean, LSU just gets all these great wide receivers, and sometimes they just can't all see the field. Like, there were times where McMath showed up and looked like a very good receiver. So, kind of just a home run kind of swing there, swing for the fences type of pick. I love the Brady Breeze pick. That fits really well. He reminds me a lot of Kevin Byard, kind of the same type of player, kind of undersized, but he is not a discount against the run at all. He can come in and play. So I'm right with you. I'm going to give him a solid B, just because they lost Jonnu Smith. They didn't really address tight end, and that's an issue for me when, Jonnu Smith accounted for a lot of their offense, and they didn't sign anyone to replace him. So I just think it's kind of interesting, and don't get me wrong, tight end was not a good class to draft this year, but I don't know. Could have selected a tight end here at some point, maybe instead of Racey McMath, just to kind of depth wise. So we'll see how that feels, but B, solid B.
Rod, if I'm an administrator at the University of Pittsburgh, I'm looking at this draft and going, I know we haven't got quite the record we want out of our Pat Narduzzi era, but look at all these guys they are producing on the next level. You got to give the guy more time to develop this program. And I know I'm not saying he's on any hot seat or anything like that, but I hope if there's any impatient Pittsburgh Panther fans or boosters out there that they look at this draft class and go, we're developing talent for sure. Like we need to keep it with this guy. So I just wanted to make that comment with the Rashad Weaver pick.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nick. I definitely agree, with the Pittsburgh Panthers and that program moving forward. But just going back to the Tennessee Titans, I think I'm going to give it a B. That pretty much fringes on Caleb Farley and his medicals, just like you mentioned, Jeremy. If he can kind of be that, number one shutdown corner that everyone thought he was going to be before all the injuries was coming out, then this goes from a B to an A minus for me, because it just seems like they addressed everything that they needed to address besides the tight end position. However, you got Dylan Redunz in the second. Some people might say, hey, North Dakota State, he hasn't played against the level of competition, but I just think he's a solid offensive lineman, just like you mentioned, Jeremy, can play anywhere, on the O-line. And especially with the unfortunate situation with Isaiah Wilson, where they drafted him last year. So this can be, that makeup pick, for Isaiah Wilson in regards to the Tennessee Titans drafted him. And then you have Elijah Molden, who probably will be the steal of the draft, at least for day 2. I think he's just a chess piece that you can kind of remove around the board. His instincts, he doesn't wow you with his athletic ability, but he's just a gamer. He's one of those guys that I kind of put in the same mode as, the Buda Bakers, the Jamal Adams of the world, where, they can play, the up top, safety, but you can bring them down and you can kind of, play that nickel corner. You can move them all across the field. So I really love the Elijah Molden pick. And Des Fitzpatrick, we know Corey Davis departed and went to the Jets. You mentioned Nick Westbrook, who's coming on along with the Tennessee Titans with that wide receiver room. But I think Des Fitzpatrick can be one of those rangy receivers that, you can kind of use in the red zone to take a little bit pressure off of, Derrick Henry in the red zone from everyone kind of stacking the box and kind of throwing him a little 50-50 jump ball situations. And then you go with Rashad Weaver, who I think went a little bit low in my opinion. I thought he was going to go a little bit higher just because of his talent and everything that he did. And then you have Racey McMath. I think you hit the nail on the head, Jeremy, where you say you have these LSU receivers who, they're so talented, but everyone doesn't get to see the field. But I think where Racey McMath will make his, point on the next level is the special teams. I think he can step in, day one and become a gunner. And I think Brady Breeze is a poor man's Harrison Smith. He's just smart, instinctive. He can cover, he can run up, and he can be in the box, and he can hit you. I really love this draft that the Tennessee Titans put together. I'm going to give it a B just because I don't know the standard of Caleb Farley moving forward with his medicals, but I think it's a solid overall draft for the Tennessee Titans.
Makes sense across the board. All right, fellas, that's another division in the books, the AFC South. That's a wrap. We'll send it out with a word.
American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
Thank you for listening to American Football Stories podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, American Football Stories. We are working to grow our network on YouTube, and we'll love to have you subscribe. You can find us also on Apple Podcasts, on Twitter, at American FB Story, and on our website, AmericanFootballStories.com. I am Robert Parker. My co-host is Nick Knudsen. This has been another episode of American Football Stories.
From our sponsor, CoachMate.